Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to another webinar brought to you by Wine Shipping. Today, I'm really excited to share with you and talk to you about outbound sales. Next. So just a little bit about today's webinar. We are recording and we will send you a copy via email within the next 24 hours. Be sure to enter your questions in the questions section of the webinar. Next. So today I am joined by Stephen Smith with Chatterbox. He's our general manager. And I'm Karen Strykowski, a client experience strategy manager here at Wine Shipping. And I've had the honor to do these webinars with you all for the last 6 months or so. Next. So a little bit about Wine Shipping. Wine Shipping is the largest direct-to-consumer wine shipper in the United States today. We have over 9 million annual shipments. We represent over 1,000 brands. We're located in 6 strategic regions, and we have over 3 million temperature-controlled square feet. Next. And then just a little bit about Wine Shipping stands. So we are under new leadership with Wine Shipping, and our leaders got together last year and said, what is it we stand for? And really it comes down to 3 major stands. It's unity, simplicity, and fun. I love to think that, unity means that we collaborate. We collaborate with each other internally, but we also collaborate with our clients. Simplicity, we believe that the best solutions are simple solutions. We're continuously working to eliminate waste and complexity. And then fun. Working at Wine Shipping and working with Wine Shipping should be fun. And of course, we all know wine is fun. Next.
Is this where I get to take over?
Yeah, so Stephen is going to take over here and share everything about Chatterbox and what Chatterbox does. And, one other thing that I just want to share with you guys all is, you're probably wondering, why Chatterbox? What does this have to do with fulfillment? Well, Wine Shipping is committed to sharing with you, our partners, that we know will enable the health and growth of the direct-to-consumer wine market. And so that is why we have partnered with Chatterbox to bring you everything about outbound sales. And Stephen here is the expert in the industry. Take it away, Stephen.
Hi, thanks so much. Hey, thanks guys for joining us. We're in our 13th year at Chatterbox. At this point, we do outbound sales, we do customer service, and we build CRM for luxury brands. And so I want to talk about outbound, and what we're going to do with our presentation is give you the nuts and bolts, very clear strategy on how you can run your own and or improve your own. And so what I thought I would do is, this is like a 60,000 foot view, is give you some of our formula and our approach, and then at the end have time to answer questions. And so just starting with what is outbound, and I think this is a really key point, and one of the things that I want to nail during the course of this. People think of outbound as kind of prospecting or like barging into somebody's life that's not expecting it. It's completely different in our scenario. We're doing what we would deem account management. These customers we're calling have been to the winery, have tasted the wines, have purchased the wines, have joined the membership. And so the reason why I want to kind of pull this out is when people are resistant to doing the calls or worried about how they're going to be perceived, you're not calling somebody that doesn't know you. And so you're not barging in. And one of the coolest things, and this is I've been at Chatterbox 8 years. In the 8 years, most of the time if somebody doesn't buy, they're still thrilled that you called. So it's a pretty cool opportunity to connect and engage with your customers. The benefits to the customer, and I would say this is really paramount. Increased lifetime value of customers. We see a 20% increase on phone sales as it relates to e-commerce. Email doesn't talk back. right? And so what we're finding is people will ask questions, we can upsell, we can cross-sell. Improved engagement with non-outbound campaigns. So what this means is when people actually take your call and they're pretty grateful that the winery calls. They may not want to buy, but they will continue to pay attention to your email marketing and your social media. Think of yourself as long distance dating with these folks. And in some ways, you've got to have an actual person behind the brand, not just something digital. And that's then the next thing is deeper and more personal connection increases loyalty, referrals, and lifetime value. You're separating yourself by calling a customer. Most people, most businesses we all deal with, whether they're wine or not, they don't call, they don't see how you're doing. They just want to send you more offers. And so this type of connection really brings out loyalty. And then the other part, which I think is not talked about often, is decrease customer service tickets and unresolved issues that make people go elsewhere. During the course of a call, you can update a credit card, you can find out that there's an issue with the last shipment. This communication allows your customer to actually say what's on their mind, clean it up, and keep moving forward as opposed to getting stuck on something that's unresolved. Let's talk about the ingredients of the campaign. And Chatterbox will call a campaign any body of time that we use and organize to work on behalf of a winery. Let's put this in your use case. Your campaign is you've just had a release of a wine. And so what are you going to do to support that? First, you want a sales plan with a goal. The goal is a financial goal, right? What do I want from the sales team? And I think just by defining the goal, you can actually understand what it takes to get to that goal. The next ingredient is list by segments: members, buyers, prospects. We call members and buyers, they're qualified, they're engaged. Prospecting is not a piece of this conversation. It's not because they're not worth calling. This is not where you want to spend your time with this type of activity. And we'll talk about prospecting on another because I think it's very valuable. But for the campaign, you're calling buyers that are non-members and members of your wine club. The other ingredient, and this is one of the biggest challenges I see on email, particularly from lots of brands, the offer has to be simple, easy to say, easy to understand. If you read it in a voicemail or you listen to a voicemail, you should be able to do the math in your head. A clear incentive based on their segment means if you're a member, you should get more of an incentive than less, right? I mean, that I think wineries do a great job of that. It's just making sure that whoever's calling actually has a very clear understanding, can say it, because like all of us, and I don't think you can see me holding up my phone. Maybe you can. I don't listen to voicemail, I read them. And if that transcription doesn't come out simply, I keep moving. So keep it easy, make it simple to say. And then the last thing, dials. We make 120 to 150 calls per day per agent. Voicemails, orders, notes, breaks, everything that goes on with an agent's day, a person that works for a winery should be able to make 125 to 150 dials per day. And the reason for that is if you don't hit critical mass, you actually don't get the results you're actually looking for with your sales plan. So, and I've made this little slide just to sort of illustrate. Outbound is really account management. It's a post-sale engagement. You're not freaking anybody out. They've been to the winery, right? They've purchased, they're members. They've been members for a long time. It blows my mind how much these folks want to talk to us or talk to the wineries. They want to engage with you. Think about living in New York City or Tampa. All you look at is concrete. This is a welcome call because it's like this romantic thing that they have in their heart and their minds. And so you're just talking to a friend. So customers are warm, prospects are cold. Conversion rates increase as you move down the funnel. And so let me expand on that. The gray area at the very top are your leads or your prospects. I would expect those people to convert at less than 1%. You're calling them out of nowhere. They may have visited, they may not know, but your engagement is going to be weak-ish. The conversion rate's going to follow. The blue area represents the buyers. Buyers are not members, so they're the stage before membership. Their conversion rate tends to be pretty good, probably about a point lower than the wine club, but their average order value tends to be higher. The reason for that is they're not getting incremental shipments, so they're adding more to their orders. It's a great time to talk to them about the benefit of being a member. But frankly, I see a lot of people, like as a persona, I don't want to be a member. I'm loyal, I'll buy from you, but I don't want the shipment. You got to look at each group as and assign value to them and understand the personas. And I think this illustration with the funnel really does a great job. Follow-up is expected and common for these types of people. And this is the last thing that I think is most important. If you can spend $500 to $5,000 on a phone call on wine, something you don't need to survive, they are dealing with calls like this all day long because they run businesses, they own businesses, they've made their money, they've done their thing. So in their world, this is what goes on everything else. So don't look down on actually calling, because you're not calling like in a gross way. You're calling them with something wonderful that they're looking forward to. Here's the big slide. So KPIs and success metrics, and I want to go back to the idea of plan. When I evaluate a winery, we build a forecast for that winery. And the algebra is pretty simple. It's list size times conversion rate times average order value equals forecast. So I'll give you my example. I will take all your non-club members that are active engaged in the last 18 to 24 months, multiply that by, and our conversion rate for non-club members is 3.75%. Their average order value is $526. I take that list size times the conversion rate times the average order value, which becomes the forecast for the team. That 3.75 on your conversion rate, if it's a release of a Cabernet that's extremely sought after, move it to 5. People are going to want that, right? The conversion rate is the actual sale. So this forecast tool will allow you to find a way to instruct your team or person that's working on this to give them a goal. They know what they're shooting for, and it also defines how many calls you have to make to actually hit that sales forecast. So Chatterbox over the last 10 years, and this is my point of reference, and this is over 114 brands, I think, give or take. The conversion rate has lived between 3.75 and 6%. I've seen it get over 6% on some extraordinary brands, but the average across all brands, across all regions, and we work with Washington State, Willamette, a lot of Napa, a lot of Southern Cal, 3.75 to 6%. So just live in the middle. Call it 4, call it 4.2. Your contact rate. This is important to us because it dictates how many people answer the phone and engage. Doesn't mean that they purchased, but your contact rate should be about 20 to 22%. The reason why this is an important number is really because it's showing you that your list is healthy, right? The phone numbers are accurate, people are actually interested. Whoever segmented the list did a good job of getting people that are active and engaged versus the disengaged. And then average order value. And I want to kind of clean that number up. We've been fortunate enough to run with and work for a lot of Cabernet-based businesses. $526 reflects this is 10 years, our average order value. So if we work with somebody that sells Pinot for 60 bucks or 45 to $60 a bottle, the AOV on that campaign will be about $360 to $400. On a Cabernet proprietary red, big wine release, $100 plus, I would say the AOV should be around 450 to 600 bucks. And so what I'm trying to do is give anybody managing or running a group the opportunity to really see into the way we see it and then steal this formula. This formula will go a long way to helping you getting these people to some success. Our agent success metrics, we tipped our hat to this earlier. We make about 100 to 150 dials per day. They have 20 to 25 conversations and usually around 4 orders placed. And so just doing the quick math, 4 orders is about 2,000 bucks per agent. That's a lot of money per person per day, or a lot of sales. And so we can dig into this a bit further as we ask questions, or when you start to ask questions, because they think this, and we'll share this information with everybody. This is the way that you guide yourself to success. And so the last little bit is outbound, when paired with email marketing, will generate the highest returns for your organization. Let's go to the next slide. All right, let's talk about offers. And I do think that this can be creative, but I want to just make it really simple at first for you all. When you call somebody, have something to share with them that's relevant, whether it's a pre-release or early access for club members, newly released wines, library wines, even if they're not that old. Most people are collecting wines that are current vintage, and so we'll call it rare and ready to go. Last call and end of vintage. These are all reasons to pick up the phone because they represent valued calls to your members, customers. And I would say over time, you may find other cool subjects or topics to use as the offer. You just need a way to, when that person's calling, they don't have something cool to say, it makes them nervous, right? If you call with a pre-release, or you call with a library wine, or you call with something that feels scarce or exciting, that salesperson knows they've got a real opportunity. So their energy changes, right? If they have nothing to say and they're trying to make it happen, God, there's nothing clunkier than that call, right? So if you give these offers real shape and and if you would respond to it, that's the acid test, right? It's going to work. The ones that work the best for us, they live in between. I'd say the pre-release and early access for club members goes, whether that's an add-on or an ad swap, or that's something where you're going, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Club member, we want to reach out to you first because it's a short vintage. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to see this blank. And then the big one, incentives or shipping or discounts. Amazon hurt us all. Shipping is expected. The one benefit that you have, if you think long and hard about this, is the person on the phone, they know how much you're shipping and how much that shipping rate can be expanded. Meaning that you're ordering 4 bottles, but you're paying for 6 to ship. The idea here is to say, hey, do you want a couple of whites to add in? Do you want a couple more of these? You're already paying for the shipping. I think that leverage is really helpful, right? And unfortunately, it is a piece of the expectations. Discounts, on the other hand, if a customer is used to and trained to expect a discount, there's not much you're going to do. And I want to take a few minutes with this one. We encounter lots of brands that have run heavy promotions in order to incentivize customers to purchase. You're training them to expect this, whether you think it or not, and particularly if you publish in an email. And I'm not saying not do it. What I'm telling you is, as soon as I see that you do a once a year huge promotion, the rest of the year is gone for you, because I didn't make this money by being silly. Not that I have it. I'm taking the role of somebody else. They know what they're looking for. They know how to save their money. They know how to find deals. So if you discount heavily, you're training your customer to expect that event, particularly if you do it more than once. This scenario is needed for businesses at times. Might be something better done over the phone, not published. Calling your club and going, hey, this is a non-published promotion. That is the greatest hook for any agent, wine tasting room person, anybody making these outbound dials. Wow, what that is the best door opener ever. Unpublished, this is just for you. And so just to really hammer that home, you put those down in email, they're there forever because they can reference them. We get those emails sent to us. See what you did last year, can we get the same discount? Try not to train your customers to expect that. And if you do, manage your brand view, your brand image by actually doing it over the phone because it's less sticky and it's no longer indelible, which is a value to everybody. Scripts. So let's really kind of think about this a bit. And the word script sounds gross. These are guardrails for the person calling. And I've given you two examples that I'll talk about in a moment, but I really want to share with you like more about how we approach it and then what it does. The script is really just guardrails for the person who's starting to call on a new offer. There's the pricing, there's the segment, there's the whatever they're selling. They need those guardrails, something to reference, usually on a sticky note on their desktop that they're reading or reading from. So if they do get nervous, right? Somebody goes, yeah, I'll listen. And you're like, oh no, what do I do? I just blacked out. I can't remember what I'm offering. I need that sticky note. You don't want to sound scripted. You just want to talk to people, right? You're calling somebody that knows you. Doesn't have to be weird or awkward, like something that would be a new conversation. I think giving people a script really, really helps, at least for the first few hours that they're calling, because ultimately you just want them to call and be natural, And so for the wine club, let's just do this one. Hello, it's Steven at your winery. We're releasing the 2019 Cabernet early to club members. It's a smaller vintage, hence the call. When you have a moment, will you call me back at 7:07? So one of the things a lot of us have going for us, if you're in Napa County particularly, the area code 707 works for the entire country. Everybody picks it up. They're like, it's my wine person. I've got to pick up. I mean, it works. It works. And it's incredible. If you live elsewhere, I think you have the same effect. Maybe not quite as great because Napa's got kind of the reputation, like in a way, but 707 is going to get you an answer, and a lot of them. So the script does something else that I think is particularly important, and I referenced my phone, iPhone, Android, whatever you have. If you're busy, you're reading transcriptions. So when you start a campaign or you start a day of calling, call yourself and leave that message and then see how it transcribed. Make sure that that phone number is clickable in the voicemail. So when you leave it, and if it's not, do it again until that number, because if I read it and I want it, I'm going to click on the phone number in my voicemail, right? And it doesn't have to be super long. Nobody's going to listen to a minute-long voicemail. It's quick. So here's another example from non-club. Hey, Chuck, it's Steven from your winery. I wanted to follow up with you on the email we sent last week on the 2019 Cabernet. 2019 was a very small vintage that produced exceptional wines. Will you call me back and let me know how many you'd like? I want you to notice a few small nuances within the script. One, I assume the sale. I know that Chuck read the email because I can see the opens. And we'll talk about this a little more in the next slide. 2019 was a small vintage that produced exceptional wines. It's a hook and creates a little urgency without, again, being gross. Will you call me back and let me know how many you'd like? I didn't ask him to call me back and talk about the weather. This is us asking for the sale. I want to talk to him about the weather. I want to talk to him about the vintage. But the voicemail, we don't want to dance around it. Chuck doesn't have a lot of time, nor do you. So we want to make sure that they understand exactly what they're calling about and why. And then the little bit of urgency, I think is actually really important and creates an extra level of demand. So I'm going to go to the next slide. All right. And how I think most wineries should start looking at outbound. How email marketing plus outbound combine. So before running Chatterbox, I ran digital marketing for both Chatterbox and Vino Visit, which they were owned by the same person. One of the biggest things we saw, email marketing converts at 2.5% on average. Outbound converts at 4%. What we found, and I do think this works then, works today, is when you start a campaign around email and you send it out, you get your first 2 to 3 days worth of sales. And then that email keeps getting pushed down in your inbox, and then it disappears. So what we recommend is that you take the list of openers, non-buyers. So if you're running Klaviyo, you're running MailChimp, you're running any common email marketing platform, you can see the openers. And I'm going to tell you, as a persona that runs a little company that has a bunch of employees, if I'm not asked 3 times to do something, the chances of me doing it are low. I'm doing what's in front of me. I am a guy. I am one-dimensional at best. And so what I'd recommend to you is that email is like a billboard. I wake up to 300 emails every day. I'll read the offers, but if I don't act on it, nothing's happening. But if you call me, I'm going to know that offer and I'm going to go, thank you for calling. I was supposed to buy this wine and did not because I got distracted. I went and did something else. A squirrel popped up and I followed another thread, whatever. Sales are not a one-time thing. People need to be nudged. The busier they are, the more help they need. And so I want to go back to the very first thing I said at the beginning of this. Calls are 50% sales and 50% service. In this scenario, you're actually providing a service by reminding Chuck, the orthodontist from Ohio, that read your email but didn't place his order online. I don't have to say, hey, I saw you read the email. You call him with your script, right? Because he read the offer. He knows the incentive. He knows the price. He knows the vintage. He knows the score. He knows the story. Your work's almost done. So outbound converts at 4%. I think the most important thing about this is if you want to grow revenue and increase depletions, adding these things together will add up to a 300% increase in conversions, right? You go from a 2% only to a 6% conversion rate per 1,000. The idea would not be just to call people that opened, because that's the next warmest place past the people that already purchased, right? I think that you call the folks that opened and strike while the iron's hot, and then you call through the rest of your lists. Because with a release, particularly, people, they're busy, they're traveling, they're moving quickly, they're distracted by the world. Sometimes they just need a little help. And what you'll find is more often than not, they just didn't react quick enough, right? And so the thing that I think is also really important around the outbound call, average order values increase at minimum 20%. So again, going back to, hey, I'll take 3 bottles. Well, you're paying for 6 to ship. And that's not always the angle, but that is one strong reminder that you have to optimize shipping. You're already paying for it. Do you want to add a few bottles of white, even something off the offer? The idea here is that that back and forth conversation actually allows people to think. And I do want to remind you, there is accountability. It's a lot harder to say no to you than it is to an inanimate object, which is email marketing. I love email. It's cheap, it syndicates quickly, it goes to a lot of people, but it doesn't dive deep enough. The 1-2 punch of these two things, oh my goodness, you'll be more lethal than you know, you'll generate more sales, and I think more importantly, you'll deplete more wine than you can or you are now by combining the two options. So the big benefit, higher sales, increased depletion, greater chance to convert to a wine club. And I want to take a minute on that because I don't hear or I don't get to talk to enough folks outside of our organization about this. Our agents, and I would say 1 out of 50 calls, they convert from a non-club member to a club member. I like getting deals. What's cool about talking to somebody at the winery is they're like, hey, Steven, you know you've been paying full price, but you buy 4, 5, 6 times a year. You clearly like our wines. Why don't you just join the club? You'll get this, you'll get this, you'll get this on top of it. Oh, I never thought about it that way. You have to show people what they're missing sometimes, right? These calls are an opportunity not only to sell some wines, but more than likely to increase your membership if you can show me the value. I may or may not be inclined to join the club, but knowing that that option is there means that your boss or whoever you're talking to will be thrilled that you're talking to your customers about growing this club. That club is the lifeblood of most wineries, right? And so again, we're bringing this full circle and giving you lots of ways to use this call to your advantage. Next slide, Stephen. All right, final thoughts. Small winery, 1,500 wine club members or less, just call your list twice a year. That's club members, non-club members. They're active. And I need to kind of qualify something. Active customers that are non-members are people that have purchased in the last 18 to 24 months, and for us have spent $500. The reason why, and it could be over multiple orders, you aren't a gift giver or a gift sender. You're actually engaged with the brand. You haven't joined the membership yet. You've bought a few times. You can move that 500 to 350. They're active and engaged. Once they become unengaged, that is a whole different campaign that we can talk about the next time. I think ideally though, just going back to the top, call your entire active list 2 times per year. Success starts with a forecast. So if you're the tasting room manager, the club manager, the founder, build yourself a forecast and find out how many dials you're gonna have to make to get there, and how many dials a day your person can make, and that'll determine how long it takes to get this thing done. It also gives you an opportunity to talk to that person about how the campaign is performing. Calls require purpose or go flat. Make sure the offer is worth acting on. If you read the voicemail and you're like, man, that sounds too good to be true, they're gonna call you back. That's usually a good, it's gonna work. If you think about the offer when you say it to yourself and you're like, I'm confused, I don't know how to do this in my head, the customer's gonna think the same thing. Test your scripts by leaving yourself a voicemail. Messages should be easily transcribed by AI. And I think you'll find that this to be one of the more valuable tools, particularly when you're having somebody that doesn't do this every day, gain confidence. Like, oh, my voicemail sounds good and it works. People are calling me back. You'll see people want to do this more when they see their own results grow. Agents need to make a critical mass of calls in order to make the campaign a success. I'm going to take a little more time with this. My team does one thing and one thing only. They make calls, or they take a break, or they place an order, but that's their sole job. the use case that I think and the folks that we're talking to, you're running a tasting room, you're trying to make some calls, you have another job, you're answering the door, you're answering the phone for reservations. I sincerely doubt, unless you have your own dedicated team, you can make 100 dials per day. But you have to set the key performance indicator for that agent to be successful. 10 calls a day is not going to do it to just the club. It's not. You have to call people that you're uncomfortable calling at first. Everybody came to the winery looking forward to it. So call the non-club members, call the club, make sure that you're following through with these folks, but you have to make critical mass of calls, and I would say 50 calls per day is probably a good place for you to start. If the incentive feels too hard to understand, it is. And so sometimes I see threshold incentives, meaning that if you spend 300, you get a crock pot and free shipping the next time you ship. That doesn't do anything for me. People are moving quickly. I need to transact right now or you're going to lose me. I do the math in my head before I call you. I want to know before I talk to a salesperson so they don't have strength what I'm walking into. Make that incentive on that voicemail super easy because, and some of you don't even need to offer incentives. I get it. But if you do, don't make it hard to understand. Otherwise, your time will be wasted. And then the last thing, I would start reviewing productivity with the team within the first 3 days of their campaign. And then I would do it at the end. So what I mean by that is, how's it going? How are they doing? You're seeing the sales come in, but you want to hear from the agent what they're hearing. And then you want to hear what they're going through, like how hard is it to make the dials? What's in their way? If you're their manager, you want to remove friction. So, and I'll give you a good example. We got on this call 15 minutes before just to make sure that the technology worked for the most part because I don't know how to operate GoToWebinar. I use Zoom, and so it was really helpful and removed my stress from doing this to go, hey, I know who's going to say what. I know who's going to move the slides. Like, give your agents or the person making the call that strength and listen to their grief because there's going to be some. They're talking to a lot of people a day. It's not always as easy as you'd want. But the thing from the management standpoint, wine club, tasting room, winery, you're also going to hear when you're talking to those people, the anecdotal side of conversation. And this is how I will finish this. Calling your customers, the money's great, the depletion's incredible. Hearing their opinion on good or bad is the most valuable piece of these campaigns. You get actionable insights from people that love your brand. And if they say something that they didn't like what you did, take it, listen to it, see if it comes up a couple of times. It's something to act upon. If you hear things that you're doing really well that they loved, take it, do it again. The customer will always tell you when you're doing well or not. They want to be heard. And so if they say stuff that you don't want to hear, think of it as money in your pocket because you know what not to do the next time. I mean, I can't think of a better way to get information from the group. And if I had somebody above me that's like, how's it going in DTC? It's like, well, here are our sales, but here's what we're learning from them because we're actually calling them. And this can be anything from membership, customer service, pricing, price increases, reservations, etc. So this is our time for questions. Anybody? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Emily, I'm hoping you'll chime in and let us know if anybody has written in any questions. And if you haven't written in any questions, now's the time to write it in and Emily will field them.
Great.
Thanks so much, Stephen and Karen. So far, I don't see anything, but I'm going to give everyone a moment to type in.
Okay.
Well, I can ask you some questions, Stephen.
Yeah, I would love it.
um, so, okay, so I'm a winery because I come from the wine industry, before I came to wine shipping. And I've hired you to be my partner. How does that work exactly? Like, obviously your team is calling and saying you're from my winery. Like, can you explain how that works
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah. So we are an outsourced sales and customer service team. We become the brand. And when you hire us above and beyond the data evaluation and sort of planning, the team or the people attributed to your brand, that we do an immersion where we send them to the winery or do a virtual immersion. The team is really adept at asking questions that customers ask. Our retention, meaning and how long we've kept people, like the average is like 2 to 5 years, and we do an incredibly hard job. And so what that means is folks have been with us long enough to have been through multiple wineries, multiple varietals, multiple regions, and have a sense of what the customer is going to ask. And so when we onboard, we become as strong on your brand as we can, and then we work closely with management from the other side to ensure that they approve our messaging, how we're approaching things, and then we do a check-in with them just to make sure that we're staying on point and they're pleased, because it's not just about the sales to us, it's actually making sure that we're dealing with the customer the right way.
Great. That's fascinating. If customers, like, you're calling somebody and they have like some really important thing that obviously the winery needs to know, how does that work?
Who called? Sorry, I didn't understand.
Right. So like, so yeah, so your team called one of my customers, and then my customer is telling your salesperson
Oh,
something
yeah,
that's really important. And then
yeah.
like, but then what? Right?
Okay. So anything outside of what we've discussed in the campaign setup, we would call a red phone.
Mhm.
Red phones we set up with a manager on duty, and we'll reach out to them 3 times a day. So that could be Chuck wants a large format, Janet wants to bring 8 people versus 6. There are topics that are coming up that are outside of what we would do, but we would go and then reach out to the manager on duty or the owner and find out how to deal with that. And that would either be a warm transfer to those folks, or we would solve it as soon as we got the information.
Oh, that's really a red phone. I've
Yeah.
never heard that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Any questions, Emily?
Yeah, it looks like we had a few questions here. So this one's for Stephen. How big is the typical team assigned to a given winery? Is there some standard number, or depending on the size of the winery or the program?
It's based on the list. And so the list size, so 1,000 combined would be 1 to 2 people, because they can get through it in 2 weeks. Like, we're thinking about the rate and which we have to perform the duties, right? And we know how long it takes us to get through. And so for someone with 3,000-4,000 and above, we'll put 4 or 5 folks on it. What we want is our team members to do, like I said, 125 to 150 dials per day. And then they have second rounds and follow-ups and things. And so we know by virtue of list size how many folks we have to assign to complete the job within the campaign space.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What's the next question?
There was I guess a couple of comments about the front end systems that you can open, that can send emails on your behalf about some of these offers and kind of how to open them. So I've just a comment, maybe opinion on my side is, there's varying front end kind of e-commerce, order management, and other systems used to kind of capture orders electronically, so that, you know, the various systems, you may want to contact their support teams to see if there's visibility into the open rates and click rates and those success rates.
Oh, you know what? Let me tell you guys our stack, just so you understand what we're using. We use TalkDesk for our dials. It's a enterprise grade telephone system. And then we use a CRM platform called Zoho. And we stage your campaign within our space. And the idea is really we capture your orders within our CRM, because I want one of our managers to read the orders, to qualify them for prices, incentives, notes, make sure that everything is on point. And then my team will actually place those orders into your e-commerce portal for you and leave them at a fulfill, capture kind of stage. In order to do this, if you're just a telephone and your e-commerce platform, I would build a list on Excel, and then from my e-commerce side, and then just place orders into the back end of your order management system.
Any other questions, Emily?
I don't see any additional ones at the moment. I'm just giving the
Sure.
team another moment to see if anything else comes in.
Well, so the other thing, team, like if there are questions that come up afterwards, or like anyone can email me and say, you know, I listened. I'm always happy to sort of give you advice or pointers within reason. Obviously, like we want to make sure that you kind of are going the right direction. And if you're starting to try to do this work, expect to be a little nervous, expect to be not do it great the first time. Like you're going to iron it out. I think any effort you put forth towards this will generate results that will make it fun for the entire group to do and at your brand. And so, you know, if we can be a part of that, either pushing you or helping you to get into a place where you feel informed and ready to go, you know, don't feel bad about reaching out. We'd love to help.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you
you
all for joining us. Again, we'll send this out, and we will be sharing this video to our membership and you know, out into the World Wide Web for all our winery partners, and you know, to learn from you. So thank you, Stephen, so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you all soon. Have a great day.